Hello and welcome to a very special show on the Dettol NDTV Banega Swasth India campaign. As we celebrate Nutrition Week and POSHAN Maah, it is critical to talk about India's nutrition status and challenges. Anemia is the most common and widespread nutritional disorder in the world, and unfortunately India is the anemia capital in the world. We have the highest number of anemic individuals globally. Nearly 53% adult women and 50% pregnant women in India are anemic. Anemia is a condition in which the number of red blood cells or the hemoglobin concentration within them is lower than normal. Hemoglobin is needed to carry oxygen, and if you have too few or abnormal red blood cells or not enough hemoglobin, there will be a decreased capacity of the blood to carry oxygen to the body's tissue. Malnutrition outcomes such as stunting and anemia severely affect physical and cognitive growth and pose a huge burden on economic productivity. Anemia impairs India's growth, productivity and demographic dividend, thus affecting overall GDP. Anemia during pregnancy can put the baby at higher risk of developing anemia later in infancy and can also put the woman at greater risk of having a preterm delivery or a low birth weight baby. India has the largest number of anemic population globally and continues to be a major health problem in the country. To talk about this crucial issue, joining us today are actor Sunny Leone, who is also a mother, Neeraj Jain, Director South Asia Path, Dr. Jyoti Vajpayee, maternal and child expert, and Ravi Bhatnagar, Director External Affairs and Partnership, South Asia Reckitt. Thank you all so much for joining us today to discuss this critical issue. Sunny, September is the month where we observe POSHAN Maah. So while it is really important to talk about nutrition and healthy eating, there is also a need to talk about our country's challenges like malnutrition, anemia, micronutrient deficiency.
We have one body and we should take care of it. And there's a lot of people out there. I know it's so easy to just keep eating bad and not fueling your body with the nutrition that you need. My brother just had a baby, and she lives in America. She also is anemic, and she was anemic through her whole pregnancy, which then caused her a few complications while giving birth, and that was extremely scary to watch, because I was there watching the whole thing. And it comes down to, you know, I'm getting upset with her later saying, well, you didn't take care of your body and you need to, and now you have a baby, and that is your number one priority, is to give your children the right nutrition, and also yourselves. It's our duty as parents to also take care of our own bodies.
Dr. Vajpayee, why is India called the anemia capital, and how important is it that we tackle this situation?
It's very sad that out of 180 countries that were surveyed, India really ranks as the 117th country with the highest amount of anemic women in this. And the Sustainable Development Goals, which promise zero hunger by 2030, India will miss this mark if this trend continues. It is a top cause for maternal death. When a pregnant woman is anemic, there are higher chances of fetal death, of underweight babies, premature babies. And in children, the anemia will cause cognitive defects, defects in motor skills, learning, lower IQs. And, you know, in childhood, if you have anemia, this cannot be corrected with whatever supplements you give over the life. So it's very, very imperative for us to tackle this situation if we need a healthy, productive and economically well-doing India.
Absolutely right. We need to tackle it. Neeraj, if I come to you here, how can we tackle this issue? Dr. Vajpayee just explained that, you know, how, we need to tackle it. So how can we do that?
I want to underline the fact that a lot of our public health challenges are due to anemia. I think, as Sunny said, the first and the most important thing is really dietary diversification. You know, if you're able to achieve that, that should be the first, foremost thing that we do. Having said that, it's not easy because behavior changes take time, they're difficult, and we are a large country with a lot of people. We really need to move towards, as the government calls it, the Anaemia Mukht Abhiyaan, which is really to get rid of anemia completely from the country. There, I think one of the things that the government does do is micronutrient supplementation. There's a iron and folic acid tablet which is given, etc. And the next big thing that is being sort of, and now the Prime Minister has also talked about, is fortification. How do we fortify foods that are regularly taken by the population?
We're going to come and talk about, the fortification bit. Sunny, like you just said about food, and you yourself, you inspire so many people to eat right. You follow a healthy lifestyle. How can we bring about more awareness on eating right to overcome nutritional deficiencies?
We live in a world that is so technically advanced, and everybody's on their phones all the time watching these silly videos. But maybe we start to send out the message that, it's important to eat well. I can give you an example I did the other day to get my children to eat palak paneer for the first time, is I made them watch Popeye the Sailor Man. And Popeye is so strong because he eats his spinach. And for the last 2 days, my sons have been wanting to eat Popeye and eat their spinach. I think that awareness definitely starts in the homes. सब कुछ ऐसे घर में शुरू होता है. It doesn't start outside. It starts in our homes. So if we as active parents I don't live in a house where my children get the phone and tablets and everything. But if you are, then maybe show them something where, they can learn something about food. And kids they're like sponges, and they'll absorb this information, and soon enough they'll be telling us that we're not eating well. And we should be eating our vegetables. And something as simple as palak paneer or, eating raw spinach is a superfood, which gives us a lot of the nutrients and vitamins and all the things that we need in our bodies.
These habits actually start really young, and now even junk food, Sunny, is a huge issue. Kids want to have all, there is so much in the market as well available. So again, getting down, to eat fruits and vegetables is also quite a challenge?
It is a challenge if you've already given them all the junk. But I have one of Nisha's school friends who went to the doctor, and the doctor said, listen, she needs to start eating healthier. Literally within 2 weeks, this young girl, she's 6 years old, lost weight. She was more active. She had more energy. Even when I offered her something that wasn't so good, she definitely was asking her mother first. So it really just starts at home with the parents. And if you are lucky enough to have caregivers or nannies or house help or people who are cooking for you, then that's the easiest way. We put beetroot in our rotis to make them a little bit more healthy.
Dr. Vajpayee, like we were talking, like Sunny was saying, it can start young. So we've also seen with anemia, it's very prominent in women because early marriage is a challenge in India, and then pregnancy at a young age. All this leads to the intergenerational cycle of anemia. How can we really break this cycle? Because only a healthy mother can give birth to a healthy child.
I think the most powerful tool is women's education. Women who are educated and empowered, economically independent, they are the best people who can break this cycle of anemia. Because the most common cause is the poverty, the malnutrition, the poor sanitization, malaria, worm infestation. These are very common causes. So a girl who's educated, stays on in school, does not marry too early, does not bear children too soon, too many, too close, I think that would break the cycle of anemia. And family planning and contraception is one of the most important things that can lead to women empowerment and girls staying on in school and education, having fruitful lives, economically independent, and knowing what is right to eat. So knowing what is right for them to eat, for their children to eat, very, very important. So education, again, education of girls is the best thing that can happen and can break this cycle of intergenerational anemia.
And that's something very, very basic. Thank you for putting that so well. Neeraj, again, anemia is prevalent and we've seen the effects on health. Is screening and diagnostic in time key? Because many times we miss out that and it's very late. We realize that, the person is already severely anemic.
We know that a large part of our population is anemic, but screening for mild, moderate, severe cases is absolutely critical. At the moment, the screening processes and the tools are pretty complicated. It's a blood sample which goes out to a lab, etc. But there are now tools that are available which can do at point of care. Testing can be done and screening can be done. So diagnostic is absolutely going to be very important. You know, we can't look at anemia as just one large program which is going to solve it. I think it's going to be a combination of multiple efforts. So, for example, it could be through dietary diversification, as I talked about, through adding iron, folic acid, and the vitamins in your food. The challenge also is that, you know, while we define junk and healthy food, but there's something in the middle, which is most of our food is gone through some sort of processing. And that takes off some of the minerals and the natural vitamins that already exist in the food. So it's absolutely critical that we get down to diagnosing right at the primary care level.
Sunny, just coming on to what we just discussed, like Dr. Vajpayee said, Neeraj said, what are your thoughts on this? Because educating a woman, and especially if you need to space your family, you know, sometimes you don't realize and you have back-to-back children. How important is for a mother or a lady to know when she should plan her second child? So that's where family planning, contraception, all this is very important. What are your thoughts on this, Sunny?
I believe that family planning is absolutely important. Sex education is extremely important. You know, one of the hardest things as parents is to talk about all these different things. My daughter, like I said, my brother just had a baby and she's asking me all these questions. And, you know, what does fertilization mean? What does reproduction mean? What do all these? And she's 5. So I obviously have to figure out the right words so that she understands as a 5-year-old. But for parents out there, talking about things can be quite uncomfortable. And I think that if we can rely on our teachers out there and have it a part of a curriculum where we do learn as soon as children hit puberty or even before, where we're talking about the different stages of how everything works in life with reproduction and, you know, creating a life, then we're able to educate, you know, so many more people at a faster rate than in a home where you have a mother and father says, "Hey, and you know, I know it's uncomfortable for my husband, but it's not uncomfortable for me. Yeah. But for many people it is. I think that education is the key to solving a lot of those issues that were just brought up.
Moving forward, to give birth to a healthy baby, it is important for the mother to be healthy. A third of women of reproductive age in India are undernourished, and an undernourished mother inevitably gives birth to an undernourished baby, perpetuating an intergenerational cycle of nutrition.
पहली बार सीजर हुआ तभी हीमोग्लोबिन कम था मेरे को, यानी कि डिलीवरी के टाइम तक 10 भी नहीं ग्राम नहीं थे, 8 ग्राम 4 पॉइंट थे. उसके वजह से यानी कि मेरा हीमोग्लोबिन पहले से कम था और डिलीवरी के टाइम में ना बहुत ज़्यादा ये क्या बोलते ब्लड भी चले गए थे. पर अभी यहाँ कोर्स किया मैंने, ये 21 दिन का CTC में डाला. ये दूसरी यानी कि मेरी ये दूसरी लड़की भी पेट सी थी, तब उसके टाइम पर मैं CTC में दोनों भी हमें एडमिट हुए. दोनों ही एडमिट हुए तो तब उनका 21 दिन का कोर्स किया मैंने, तो अभी वजन भी अच्छा है दोनों का. और फिर इस बार भी दूसरी बार भी सीजर हुई, तो उस बार भी फिर कम था मेरा शुरुआत में, पर CTC में फिर आयरन की 4 सलाइन वो छोटे छोटे बॉटल लगाई उन्होंने 100 ग्राम वाली. तब से इस बार दूसरी बार कुछ तकलीफ नहीं हुई, यानी सीजर भी अच्छा हुआ और ऑपरेशन भी उसमें किया मैंने, तो ऑपरेशन भी अच्छा हुआ.
So Ravi, we just saw how Pratibha and her daughters have benefited from the Reach Each Child program. While Reckitt has been working on ground in Amravati district of Maharashtra, what are the learnings and how has the impact been so far?
One of the biggest obstacle is basically like the transportation of the patients or the kids who get very serious, who are SAM, and there are no internet connectivity there in most of the places as it's a tribal region. So making sure the bike ambulances are there so that kids can be actually transported well in time. From the problem identification phase to the treatment phase, it should start early. The early identification of the problem and the early treatment, then only the success will come. One more issue what we have also dealt is basically is the language barriers. It's not Marathi, it's not Gujarati. There are other regional languages called Pawadi and others. So creating all the communication material in the languages which are being understood by the people whom we are working with, and putting customer first approach and putting the patient first approach, so that all the efforts are triggered there, resulting into zero deaths.
It is time for a short break. Coming up next is how Olympian silver medalist Ravi Dhaya overcame anemia. Welcome back. Population-based studies on anemia in India have mostly focused on women and children, which is why men with anemia receive much less attention despite anemia's adverse effect on health, well-being and economic productivity. Studies show how the prevalence of anemia in men varies across India among states and districts. India's Olympic silver medalist Ravi Dhaya was also suffering from it.
तो कैसे मतलब एनीमिया क्यों था और कैसे निकले?
देखो जी, अब पहले से अब आए थे, प्रैक्टिस ज़्यादा होती थी और खाना पीना मतलब कम था, तो इस चीज़ में मतलब काफ़ी फ़र्क होता है, क्योंकि उस टाइम पे प्रैक्टिस तो हम इतने बड़े पहलवानों के साथ करते हैं, हम छोटे बच्चे थे, तो खाना पीना अच्छे तरीके से नहीं हुआ, शायद इस तरीके इसलिए हो गया होगा.
Neeraj, we just saw what Ravi said. People talk about women and children being anemic, but men also face this issue since it's more prominent in women. Do you think for most men it goes unnoticed?
We don't even actually screen men mostly. So I think it's absolutely critical that we focus on the entire population. We focus on, of course, pregnant mothers to start with, small children, and then, of course, the men. There's no way that we're going to be able to move away from this emergency without actually taking the entire population into account.
Dr. Vajpayee, the COVID pandemic, we were discussing that right now has made this nutrition crisis much worse than ever. What are some iron-rich foods in our diet which can actually help fight anemia?
So as we talked about earlier, it's not just iron, but we also need vitamins to prevent anemia. So having the non-vegetarian food is better absorbed and has high quantities of iron, like meat, fish, chicken and poultry, etc. Green leafy vegetables. Sunny talked about spinach. Spinach is a great source of iron. Then fresh fruits. Fresh fruits have a lot of vitamins. So, eating right is very important.
So eating right is critical. Of course, we need to start young. We need to start telling our children. Sunny, a message for you, for the mums out there, how can they actually help motivate their children to eat right?
I think a message is that it's not that difficult. Thoda sa time, thoda sa love, thoda sa just that extra something that you need to do to get them excited about eating vegetables and fruits and eating the right things. And like I said, something as simple as making purple rotis because you put beets in there, or making green rotis because you put spinach in it. And this is for the really younger children who have a hard time looking at, certain foods and saying, yuck, mama, I don't want that. So I try and make it as fun as possible. And if I can invite all the children out there to my house one evening for dinner, it is a crazy house of fun when it comes to eating and all these things. So I think it just takes a little bit of time, but you can do it. I believe in you, parents, all out there. Just go for it, do it, and you can always message me if you need some help.
Neeraj, in fact, recently even the Prime Minister during the Independence Day speech announced that fortified rice will be distributed. What does the future of food fortification really look like?
Fortification is a great way of adding whatever is short in the food and trying to get it to the population. In our country, we have a very nice, very elaborate public distribution system which delivers rice, wheat, etc. at really subsidized prices to the people who can't afford it. So what the Prime Minister has announced is to fortify the rice that is going through the public distribution system, which is reaching almost 70% of the population of India. And if we're able to fortify that, we will be able to take care of some part of the micronutrient deficiency. We found in studies that anemia levels can actually drop by about 10% if food is fortified and the right ingredients are added. Then it becomes much easier to get this to the population without actually the behavior change angle, because they're already eating the rice and they're getting the fortificants as they eat the rice.
Dr. Vajpayee, before your closing remarks, if you can just tell us something very basic, that what is really the level of hemoglobin we're looking at, because the different set standards, like WHO has one standard. So for our country, what is that standard?
So I think the hemoglobin, the optimum hemoglobin that we're looking at for women is 12 gram%, for children also 11 to 12, for men about 13 gram%. Below that, it wavers towards anemia. It's an emergency situation, and we should push for our men, women and children having optimum levels of. My closing remarks, again, I would say the focus on women education, sex education, as Sunny said, and for girls and women, educating them, keeping them in schools, making sure that their pregnancies are not too soon, too close and too many, using family planning and contraceptive methods, and eating right from childhood.
Neeraj, your closing remarks. Thank you, Jyoti, for that.
I just want to say eat right should be our mantra. The government has launched, the FSSAI has launched a program called Eat Right India. I'm actually on that steering committee, and that is really focused on making sure people eat right. Okay. More importantly, I think some amount of policing about not eating wrong. What is the salt content on the food that I'm eating? What is, what is it that I'm consuming? Yeah. So those labels, etc., that's coming into play. So not eating wrong is another one that I want to really stress on.
Yeah, I think not eating wrong, sometimes we don't think of that. That's a good way to put it. And Sunny, your closing remarks finally?
Love your body. You have one of them. You can't replace, certain parts of yourself ever again if we don't take care of it. And on a serious note, it is difficult sometimes to get the right nutrition, but with small steps, you can change your entire life. So start small and baby steps.
Thank you so much, Sunny, Dr. Vajpayee and Neeraj for joining us today. Since anemia affects girls and women more, it is important to take care of the girl child from the very beginning, at all important stages of her life, birth, adolescence and during pregnancy. Helping people recognize the common and often overlooked symptoms is key. Also, timely screening to diagnose anemia is critical. Targeted anemia interventions and preventive measures like eating right will help overcome this crisis and achieve the goal of Anaemia Mukht Bharat.